Hi, I'm John Faisandier, and I've been teaching managers how to handle difficult conversations for over 20 years. Every time I teach this in a workshop or in an online CFL coaching program, I see the same look on people's faces when I tell them this technique. I get a mixture of polite nodding and quiet skepticism. I also get quite a bit of pushback on it. People don't really believe that it can work, because what I'm about to tell you sounds way too simple to actually work. But here's what I've learned. The people who try it, even the ones who think it's ridiculous, come back the next week with success stories that surprise and delight them. Let me show you what I mean. When someone gets upset at work, there's a sequence happening in their brain, and it's APE. I call it when somebody goes ape. That is, there's an action, a perception, and an emotion. So something happens, that's the action. It might be something that's all legitimate, or it might be a real problem that's happened, something that's gone completely wrong. There's also a perception, and so even if it's something that you did well and was still correct, they might perceive it as being wrong. Or they see something going wrong, their perception is that this is terrible, it's going to ruin their lives, and all of that generates a very strong emotion, or a mild emotion for that matter. But there's a feeling that gets generated. And here's the part that most managers get wrong. You cannot solve the action or correct the perception until you acknowledge the emotion. Now, most people do this, and I did it for years. Jump straight into fixing the problem. Let's change the schedule. Here's what we can do about that. Let me explain why that happened. Or that's not exactly what happened. Or you were probably not aware that this was caused by. All these things you're trying to solve before you acknowledge the emotion. Because the person's brain is stuck on the emotion. They're frustrated, they're worried, they're feeling unheard. Until you name the emotion out loud, they literally can't move forward with you. Now, when I explain this in the CFL program, people say, "What? That's it? Just saying what they're feeling? That seems too easy. Surely that's not enough." I'm not the only one who teaches this. Chris Voss, a top FBI negotiator, actually calls this tactical empathy. He's been teaching this for many years, and it's what I've been teaching for years as well. He discovered this through the intensity of hostage negotiations. I've discovered it through my work with people, both those recovering from addictions and, for the last 25 years, for people working in business and corporate world, in government departments. It's the same principle. Empathy is noticing what the other person is feeling and letting them know that you see, without judgment or without criticism, simply naming what's in front of you. Now, you need to do that because what's happening in their brain, the amygdala, which is the kind of a defense mechanism, that activates when it perceives that there's a threat. And a threat can just simply be somebody saying no to you, let alone something terrible going wrong, something that threatens their very existence. So you want to be able to do something that will help their amygdala calm down. Because when the amygdala is fired up, they're not really being rational. They can't be rational because they are highly emotional and ready for fight or flight. So people are skeptical that this will work. And then when the next session rolls around, invariably and almost every single time, someone has a story. Bob, who was a construction manager, tried it the very next day. One of his team members came in frustrated about a scheduling issue. Bob didn't try to remember everything from the session. He just remembered, acknowledged the emotion. So he stopped trying to fix it and just said, "Gee, you seem really frustrated." And that's it. 3 words. The guy exhaled. His shoulders dropped. He said, "Yeah, I am frustrated." And Bob told me later, I didn't agree with him. He shouldn't really have been frustrated. And I didn't fix anything yet. I just named what he was feeling. And it felt like the whole conversation unlocked. So here's what's happening in that moment. When you acknowledge someone's emotion, you're doing something that their brain desperately needs. You're confirming that what they're feeling is real. Not right, not justified, just real. And that simple confirmation shifts their brain out of the fight-flight mode and into problem-solving mode. It's like a pressure valve gets released. Now, Richard was another manager. He was sceptical too. He said to me, "This is the stuff I'm desperately looking for, the language to use, the structure, but does it really work when somebody's properly angry?" "Fair question," I said. So he tried it. A team member came to him, wound up about a project decision. Richard remembered, emotion first, yeah. And he said, you sound really frustrated about this. The guy said, "Yeah, I am." And Richard said, "That one acknowledgement brought me about 30 seconds to actually think about what to say next instead of just reacting. And it slows everything down. The other person experiences you as being on their side. Even if you don't agree with the content, you're nevertheless a friend. You are with them, and the big conversation becomes possible so that you can work out whether they are accurate or not accurate in their thinking." So the kind of things you can say is, "You seem frustrated. You sound worried about this. I can see this is really bothering you. That sounds really hard." Any of those statements would acknowledge what the other person's feeling and what's going on for them. And you don't have to have this all pre-scripted. You just need to look and see, what is it that they're saying? What is it? What do they look like? What does it seem like their feeling is? Now, you might be thinking, what if I name the wrong emotion? It doesn't matter as much as you might think. If you say, "You seem frustrated," and they're actually angry, they'll correct you. "No, I'm not frustrated, I'm angry." And guess what? You just acknowledge that too. You don't need a lot of words. Sometimes just nodding will do it. Or, "Yep, you aren't you." You've still created the pressure release, and you're not trying to rush things. Let what you have said land. Let that settle. Simon, who was a manager in an operations team and finally got the hang of this, put it this way. He said, "For me, it's learning to recognize the other person's emotional state and acknowledge that. Give them time to be heard and express their feelings, and then take it from there. No rush to fix it." He's honest, because he also said, "I'm no expert yet. Every now and then I catch myself going back to old ways, but it's a conscious decision to apply the technique." And that's why he liked the weekly coaching sessions in the CFL program. So here's what it looks like in practice. Someone comes to you upset. You can see it, tight jaw, clipped words, arms crossed. So your instinct is to jump to solutions, to explain, to fix. Partly because you haven't been taught how to manage other people's emotions, or you haven't been taught how to manage your own for that matter. And I'll talk about that in another post. Instead, you pause, take a breath. You name what you're seeing. "You seem frustrated. You sound worried about this. I can see that this is really bothering you." You're not agreeing with them. You're not saying they're right. You're just naming the emotion. And watch what happens. 9 times out of 10, they'll confirm it. Yeah, I am frustrated. And suddenly, you're having a different conversation. One where they can actually hear you as much as you hear them. I know this sounds simple. That's what everybody thinks in session 1. But the managers who actually try it, they come back amazed. Not because it's complicated, but because it works. Even when you can't remember anything else, even when you're caught off guard, even when you're nervous, think emotion, name it, and see what happens. So this is one of the frameworks that I teach people in the conflict-free leadership program. And we practice it with real situations, because knowing about it and being able to use it in the moment are two different things. But you can, if you practice and come back, get feedback, think about it a lot more, see how it can apply, see how you maybe miss something. Those are the things that become really valuable in learning new habits and changing the way that you relate to people, especially when they are emotional and seemingly difficult. So here's what you can try this week. Next time somebody comes to you upset, don't try to fix them immediately. Just name what you see them feeling and notice what happens next. Now you can try this with anybody really, not just those that are upset, but you can try it at home. Try it when your kids, if they're enjoying themselves, if they're watching television, you really like that program. Looks like you're enjoying that meal. You really love playing that game on PlayStation, don't you? You can say these things. Watch what happens. You will lift them. They will feel like they have been seen without you needing to judge them or somehow criticize them. Here's a little tip that you can use at home as well. If you've got kids who are playing on their PlayStation or something, or some device, you can say, gee, you're really having a good time with that. Then they experience you as being on their side. Then you can say, you are going to need to finish now and come and sit up at the table for dinner. That's a bit of a winner. So try this out. Let me know how it goes. I'm John Faisandier, and thanks a lot for watching.